fancy words. Simply it means, well, guess what? You eat less. But the thing is, when you look at the studies, caloric restriction is the one form of life extension that's been proven to work across pretty much all mammal groups. Simply, when you end up reducing the amount of calories animals take in, they live longer. Their mean lifespan ends up increasing. And it's fantastic. It's pretty much the gold standard longevity. And a lot of the supplements people talk about from an aging perspective end up impacting or working because they're caloric restriction mimetics. But the question is, you have to consider, what's your goals? I mean, sure, I want to live longer. But I don't want to just live longer. I don't want to grow older and be decrepit and sit there and feel old and miserable, because that would not be so much fun. And caloric restriction has some severe downsides. See, the problem with caloric restriction is a number of things. You lose your energy. You lose your internal basal temperature. You start feeling colder. Start feeling more miserable. You lose your muscle mass. You lose your sex drive. And after a certain point, you start looking and going, well, I get to live a lot longer, but I'm not sure I like the life that I end up living. And our thing is, it's pretty hard to do. I mean, think about it. You see time and time again. Hey, you've been told, I want to lose weight. So what advice do you get? Move more, exercise more, and eat less. Sounds great in concept, but in practice, it ends up being pretty hard to do. And I'm a hacker. I want things to be easy. I want the most results for the least amount of effort. So this brings us to this concept called intermittent fasting, where you get almost all of the gain for a lot less pain. And frankly, I'm pretty damn lazy. I want the most results. I want the least effort. Yes, I cheat, and I'm damn proud of it. So looking at intermittent fasting, it sounds fancy, but again, the concept at heart is really simple. Don't eat. Now, I'm not saying don't eat all the time. I mean, I can't live off of air alone. But what we end up doing is what's called restricting the feeding window. So normally, what do we do these days? We wake up in the morning, we have our bagels and fruit. A couple hours later, we're having our breakfast or lunch. If you guys are bodybuilders, you're downing protein shakes all the time. And believe me, I work at GNC. I've owned those stores. I've sold a lot of protein and meal replacement shakes because, you know, you have to be eating 6 meals a day, 8 meals a day, because if you stop eating for, an hour and a half, you're going to lose protein mass and muscle mass. The truth is, you don't have to do all of that. We end up restricting the feeding window. Depending on who you talk to, you restrict the feeding window and fast for, say, anywhere between 16 and 36 hours. And depending on how long you're fasting, depends on what your goals are. Are you looking at it more from a longevity standpoint like myself? Or is your goals more alongside of the, hey, I just want to look better naked? But so let's think about it. Why might this work? The thing is, with our modern diets, with eating constantly, what happens is we're constantly in this growth mode. We're pretty much in an anabolic state. But the thing is, we weren't evolved in such an environment. We weren't evolved to be in a state where we're constantly eating and having those growth signals every day, pretty much throughout our waking period. We were designed to alternate this and to have states of catabolism, when your body starts repairing, breaking things down. It's basically this difference between, yes, I want to grow and build and store fat, versus actually ending up burning off that fat. But let's start looking at some of the evidence for intermittent fasting. There is some pretty decent evidence out there. Predominantly, we've got a decent amount of animal studies throughout a lifespan, particularly in the mean lifespan. And the interesting thing here is some people go that, oh, the benefits from intermittent fasting are just caloric restriction. In other words, all the benefits come from people eating less. It's not true. The study is indicating that they get some of the benefits, even if ultimately they end up eating the same amount of calories. Changing that window, changing when you eat those calories, that window of time makes a huge difference. But we also have human studies. Let's think back to Madrid. The year is 1956, and you're in the best environment possible. Guess what? You're in a retirement home. Sounds fantastic. But in this case, they had some smart researchers around. So they wanted to see, what's some of the benefits. And they didn't even do a full, what I'd call full intermittent fasting. They did a modified study. So normally, they ended up giving all these old people 1,600 calories a day. But they changed things up a little. They switched it so you had some people were then eating 900 calories one day and 2,300 calories the next day. The study lasted for 3 years. And what happened?